Look who's still standing. Look who's still breathing. Look who walked through every fire they lit and came out smelling like victory. You wild, unshakable, dangerously underestimated creature, welcome back. Or better yet, welcome to the moment you finally realize what they've known about you for years. Now, before we go any further, I built something for you. Something that goes deeper than any video ever could. It's called The Joker Doctrine, a book designed to crack open the darkest corners of human psychology and hand you the keys to self-mastery that nobody wants you to have. If these words move you, that book will transform you. Links in the description. Now, back to why you're really here. You're powerful. Not the kind of powerful they show in movies. Not the loud, chest-beating, look at me kind. No, you carry the kind of power that makes rooms shift when you walk in. The kind that makes people stumble over their words mid-sentence. The kind that makes them rethink their entire existence after a single conversation with you. And you beautiful fool, you had no idea. You've been walking around carrying a force inside you that has kept entire groups of people awake at night. And you thought you were ordinary. You thought you were struggling. You thought you were behind, but behind the scenes, behind every closed door you weren't invited into, behind every whispered conversation you weren't meant to hear, they were talking about you, about your power, about the thing you carry that they can't name, can't replicate, can't steal, and most importantly, can't destroy. And it terrifies them. Let me say that again, so it sinks into every cell of your being. They are terrified of you, not because you threatened them, not because you attacked them, not because you played dirty or fought back or schemed against them. No, they're terrified because you didn't do any of those things, and you're still winning. They're terrified because they threw everything they had at you. Every obstacle, every betrayal, every lie, every manipulation, every silent treatment, every public humiliation. And you're still here, still standing, still growing, still becoming something they can't compete with. That's not just strength, that's a phenomenon. That's a force of nature wearing human skin. And they feel it. Every single one of them feels it. The ones who smile on your face, they feel it. The ones who pretend to support you, they feel it. The ones who disappeared when you needed them most, they feel it. And the ones who actively tried to destroy you, oh, they feel it the most. Because your power isn't something you project. It's something you radiate. It leaks out of you without your permission. It fills spaces you haven't even entered yet. And they've been choking on it for years. You want to know the funniest part? You've been apologizing for it. You've been shrinking yourself, dimming yourself, making yourself smaller so they could feel comfortable around you. You've been second-guessing your instincts, questioning your worth, wondering if maybe, just maybe they were right about you. Maybe you were too much. Maybe you were too intense. Maybe you were too ambitious, too honest, too real for this world. And all that time, all those years of self-doubt, they were praying you'd never figure it out. They were hoping you'd stay asleep. They were banking on you, never ever realizing what you actually are. Because the moment you wake up, the moment you see yourself clearly, the moment you stop apologizing for the earthquake you carry inside you, their entire world collapses. And guess what? Today is that day. Right now. This moment. This is the awakening they feared. This is the shift they tried to prevent. This is you finally brutally, irreversibly understanding that you are not the weak one in this story. You never were. Now, let's talk about the evidence, because this isn't just some feel-good speech. This is fact. This is documented in their behavior. You see, powerful people don't need to announce their power. The people around them announce it for them. And if you look closely, if you really pay attention, they've been announcing yours for years. They just disguised it. They disguised it as criticism. They disguised it as concern. They disguised it as gossip, they disguised it as distance, but every single reaction they had to you was a confession. A confession that you carry something they don't. A confession that your presence disrupts their comfort. A confession that watching you exist at the level you do makes them question everything about themselves. Think about it. Think about the people who pulled away from you for no reason. No argument, no conflict, no betrayal. They just left, faded, went ghost, and you spent months, maybe years, wondering what you did wrong. But here's the truth you weren't ready to hear until now. You didn't do anything wrong. You outgrew them. Your energy, your evolution, your refusal to stay stuck, it made them uncomfortable. Not because you changed, but because you changed and they didn't. And proximity to someone who's ascending when you're standing still is the most painful mirror in existence. Think about the people who tried to compete with you, not openly, not honestly, but quietly, subtly. They mimicked your ideas. They copied your moves. They studied your patterns and tried to replicate your results. And when they couldn't, when they realized that what you have isn't a strategy but a soul frequency, they turned bitter. They turned cold. They turned into critics. Because if they can't be you, the next best thing is to diminish you. If they can't reach your level, the next best thing is to convince everyone that your level doesn't exist. That's not jealousy. That's psychological survival. You are a threat to their self-image simply by existing. Your consistency exposes their inconsistency. Your authenticity exposes their performance. Your courage exposes their cowardice. And your ability to keep going, to keep rising, to keep showing up with that fire in your eyes, even after everything that exposes the lie they tell themselves every morning when they look in the mirror and pretend they're okay with who they've become. You are walking evidence that more is possible. And for people who've settled, that evidence is unbearable. Think about the ones who talk behind your back. The ones who sat in rooms and dissected your life like it was entertainment. They discussed your choices. They questioned your motives. They analyzed your relationships, your finances, your mistakes, your victories, everything. And you thought they were judging you. You thought they were looking down on you. But here's what was really happening. They were obsessed not with your flaws, with your power. Because people don't waste time discussing things that don't affect them. People don't gather in groups to talk about someone who doesn't matter. They were threatened. They were intimidated. They were fascinated and furious at the same time. Fascinated by how you keep surviving things that would have buried them. Furious that they can't figure out how you do it. And so they talked and talked and talked. Not because you're weak, but because you're so strong, it haunts them. Your name lives in their mouth rent-free because you live in their mind like a storm they can't outrun. That's power. Raw, unfiltered, undeniable power. And you didn't even know you had it. Let's get specific about what this power actually is. Because it's not what you think. It's not money. It's not status. It's not connections or followers or achievements. Those are byproducts. The real power, the thing that makes them lose sleep, is something far more dangerous. It's your energy. It's the way you carry yourself through devastation without becoming devastating. It's the way you forgive people who never apologized and keep moving without bitterness weighing you down. It's the way you rebuild after every collapse like you were designed for resurrection. They can't name it. They've tried. They called it luck. They called it stubbornness. They called it delusion. They called it arrogance. But none of those words fit because none of those words capture what you actually are. You are someone who refuses to die spiritually in a world that keeps trying to kill your spirit. You are someone who keeps choosing hope in an environment engineered for despair. You are someone who looks at chaos and sees a canvas, who looks at pain and sees a lesson, who looks at betrayal and sees freedom. And that ability to transmute darkness into fuel, that is the most dangerous power a human being can carry, because it means you can't be controlled. And people who can't be controlled can't be predicted. And people who can't be predicted can't be manipulated. And people who can't be manipulated are the single greatest threat to anyone whose power depends on keeping others small. That's why they try to break you. Not because you did something wrong, but because your unbroken spirit was a direct threat to their control. They needed you dependent. They needed you doubting. They needed you begging for their approval, their validation, their permission to exist at full volume. But you stubborn, magnificent, untamable soul, you kept going. You kept growing. You kept evolving without asking anyone's permission. And now they're watching you from the sidelines, realizing that the person they tried to break is now the person they can't reach. The person they dismissed is now the person they discuss. The person they underestimated is now the person they can't overpower. And there's nothing they can do about it. Nothing. Because your power doesn't come from external sources. It comes from inside, from that place they can't touch. That place no insult can penetrate. That place no betrayal can access. That place no amount of gossip, no campaign of lies, no army of haters can ever reach. You know what makes this even more devastating for them? The fact that you don't weaponize it. You don't use your power to crush people. You don't use it to manipulate. You don't use it to dominate or control or intimidate. You just live. You just exist at a frequency that makes their frequency look static. And that passive, effortless superiority is what drives them absolutely insane, because they can't call you a bully. They can't call you aggressive. They can't call you toxic. You're just there being thriving, growing, and the contrast between your life and theirs is becoming more unbearable by the day. They wanted you to misuse your power so they could justify their hatred. They wanted you to become arrogant so they could say, "See, I told you they'd change." They wanted you to fall from grace so they could finally feel equal to you. But you didn't give them that satisfaction. You carried your power with humility, with grace, with a quiet confidence that screams louder than any boast ever could. And now they're stuck admiring the very thing they tried to destroy. That's not just power. That's dominion. That's authority. That's a level of influence they'll spend the rest of their lives trying to understand. Now, let me pull back the curtain on something you don't know. Something that's been happening behind your back for longer than you realize. They've been having meetings about you. Not formal meetings, not boardroom meetings, but kitchen table meetings, car ride meetings, late night phone call meetings, group chat meetings. They've been assembling, gathering their notes, comparing their observations, and trying to figure you out. They've been asking each other questions. Have you noticed how they never react? Have you noticed how they just keep going? Have you noticed how nothing we do seems to stick? Have you seen how they're growing? And those questions, those frustrated, confused, slightly panicked questions, are the highest compliment you'll never directly receive. Because what they're really saying is, I can't beat them and I don't know why. What they're really admitting is, I've tried everything and nothing works. What they're really confessing is, this person has something I don't eating me alive. And the irony, the beautiful, devastating irony is that you've been sitting at home thinking you're nobody, thinking you're falling behind, thinking everyone else has it figured out except you, while entire circles of people have been organizing their emotional energy around trying to understand why you're so hard to break. They've been watching your social media, analyzing every post, every caption, every photo, looking for cracks, looking for sadness, looking for evidence that you're struggling, so they can finally exhale. But you keep posting, you keep smiling, you keep showing up, and every time you do, it's another reminder that their power over you has expired. They watch your growth like it's a horror movie. Every new achievement, every new connection, every new level you reach is a jump scare in their narrative because it doesn't fit. You're not supposed to be winning. You're not supposed to be thriving. According to their calculations, according to the damage they inflicted, according to the obstacles they placed in your path, you should be done by now. Finished, forgotten. A cautionary tale whispered in the past tense, but here you are, present tense, active tense, future tense, and they can't fast forward past you. They can't skip this chapter. They can't change the channel because everywhere they look, there you are succeeding, ascending, becoming. And every single step forward you take is a step deeper into their insecurity. Let me tell you what they say when they think no one who cares about you is listening. They say, I don't understand how they do it. They say, something about them just gets to me. They say, I've never met anyone who bounces back like that. They say, it's like nothing touches them. And then after all of that, after admitting your resilience, your consistency, your unshakable nature, they add one final sentence that reveals everything. They say, I hate that about them, not I admire that, not I respect that, I hate that. Because admiration would require humility, respect would require honesty, and hatred. Hatred is the only emotion available to someone who's watching greatness from the prison of their own mediocrity. They don't hate you because you're bad. They hate you because you're undeniable. And that involuntary confession disguised as contempt. That's the loudest declaration of your power you will ever receive. Let's dissect the fear, because everything they've ever done to you, every cold shoulder, every rumor, every exclusion, every betrayal, it all traces back to one emotion. Fear, pure, raw, bone-deep fear. They are afraid of what you represent. You represent the possibility that someone can go through the worst and still become the best. You represent the reality that pain doesn't have to produce bitterness. You represent the truth that integrity still works, that patience still pays, that character still matters. And in a world where most people have abandoned those values, your existence is an indictment, a walking, breathing indictment of every shortcut they took, every lie they told, every person they used, every principle they abandoned. You didn't just choose a different path. You proved that path works. And that proof, that undeniable, irrefutable proof, is the source of their terror. Because if your way works, it means their way was unnecessary. If your way succeeds, it means their compromises were pointless. If your way wins, it means everything they sacrificed their integrity for could have been achieved without the sacrifice. And that realization is a weight they'll carry for the rest of their lives. They're afraid of your consistency because they can't match it. They start things and stop. They commit and quit. They promise and disappear. But you keep showing up day after day, month after month, year after year, through heartbreak, through financial drought, through loneliness, through confusion, through moments when giving up made more sense than going on. You kept showing up. And that consistency, that relentless, stubborn, almost irrational consistency, it built something they can't tear down. A reputation, a legacy, a foundation so deep that no storm can shake it. They tried to wait you out, thinking eventually you'd burn out. Eventually you'd lose motivation. Eventually you'd join the crowd of quitters and compromisers and excuse makers. But you didn't, and now they're exhausted. Not from working hard, but from watching you work hard. From watching you outpace them without ever looking back. From watching the gap between who you are and who they are grow wider every single day. That gap is their nightmare. And your consistency is the alarm clock that won't let them sleep through it. They're afraid of your silence. Oh, this one haunts them the most because you stopped arguing. You stopped defending yourself. You stopped showing up to every fight they started. You just went quiet. And in that quiet, you became untouchable because they can't fight someone who won't engage. They can't win an argument with someone who won't argue. They can't defeat someone who's already left the battlefield. Your silence isn't weakness. It's the loudest flex in human psychology. It says, "You're not worth my energy." It says, "I've outgrown this." It says, "I have better things to do than convince you of my value." And for people who need confrontation to feel alive, who need drama to feel relevant, who need your reaction to feel powerful, your silence is a death sentence. It starves them. It suffocates them. It forces them to sit alone with the version of you they created in their mind and realize it doesn't match reality. And that dissonance, that gap between who they told themselves you were and who you actually turned out to be, that's the prison they'll never escape. Here's the part that'll make you smile. Every obstacle they placed in your path became a stepping stone. Every door they closed became a redirect to a better one. Every lie they told about you became a contrast that made the truth shine brighter. They didn't just fail to destroy you. They accidentally built your throne brick by bitter brick. Every rumor they spread made people curious about you. Every time they excluded you, it forced you to build your own circle, a stronger one, a loyal one, one that actually deserves to be there. Every time they underestimated you, it gave you the element of surprise. They handed you advantages disguised as attacks. They gave you fuel disguised as pain. They provided motivation disguised as betrayal. And now you're sitting on a throne they constructed with their own hands, looking down at the architects of your ascension, and they can't even be angry because they know. They know they did this to themselves. They created the very thing they feared. They engineered their own irrelevance. They manufactured the monster they were trying to prevent. Except you're not a monster. You're a masterpiece. And they're the ones who accidentally held the chisel. Think about how insane that is. They spent years trying to dim your light, and all they did was make you fireproof. They spent years trying to poison your name, and all they did was make your reputation bulletproof. They spent years trying to break your spirit, and all they did was forge an armor so thick, so tested, so battle-hardened, that nothing penetrates it anymore. You're not who you were before they attacked you. You're better, sharper, clearer, stronger, more focused, more dangerous. And by dangerous, I mean dangerous to mediocrity, dangerous to fakeness, dangerous to anyone who thought they could keep living a lie in your presence. Because your power doesn't just elevate you, it exposes everyone around you. It forces people to confront themselves. It demands authenticity from every space you enter. And people who've been faking their entire lives can't survive that kind of exposure. Though they run, they hide, they gossip, they scheme, but they never ever confront you directly, because direct confrontation would require them to stand in the full force of your energy. And they already know they can't handle that. They've already tested those waters and they nearly drowned. So let them whisper. Let them scheme. Let them hold their little meetings and exchange their little theories about why you are the way you are. Because while they're busy studying you, you're busy becoming unstoppable. While they're busy discussing you, you're busy building an empire they'll never be invited into. While they're busy fearing you, you're busy becoming the thing fear itself is afraid of. You have no idea how powerful you are. But they do. They've always known. That's why they tried so hard to keep you asleep. That's why they invested so much energy into making you doubt yourself. That's why they celebrated your failures and mourned your victories, because an awake you, a confident you, a fully realized you is the single most dangerous thing in their universe. And today, right now, this very second, You just woke up. And the tremor, the earthquake, the absolute seismic shift that just moved through their reality. They felt it. Every single one of them felt it. And they know in that place they'll never admit exists, that there's no going back. You're awake now. You see yourself clearly, and the view from where you're standing now, it's absolutely flawless.